Tonight, accused murderer Greg Lynn tells police why he covered up the deaths of two campers. Also tonight, going into battle on defence recruits, the government looks to permanent residents to bolster numbers. Counting in India's massive election finally comes to an end. And next stop Paris, the Matildas lock in their Olympic squad with a mix of established stars and debutantes. Hello and good evening. Iskhander Razak with ABC News. Greg Lynn says he covered up the deaths of two campers in Victoria's high country because he didn't want to lose his career and family. As his police interview was played to a court for the second day, the former Jetstar pilot admitted he'd made some terrible decisions, but said he was not guilty of murder.
This is Greg Lynn repainting his four-wheel drive and removing part of the vehicle as he tries to cover up the deaths of Carol Clay and Russell Hill. Detective Brett Florence was one of the officers who arrested Mr Lynn and interviewed him at the Sale police station. The alleged double killer protested his innocence using a hand-drawn map to describe a deadly fight at this campsite in Victoria's high country. "I'm innocent of murder. I haven't behaved well. I've made some poor decisions, but murder, as I understand it, I am innocent of," Mr Lynn said. In meticulous detail, the former Jetstar pilot claimed both deaths were accidental, one involving a gunshot to the head and the other a knife to the chest. Mr Lynn said he didn't come forward to police, fearing it would end his aviation career and jeopardise his membership of a sporting club. "I tried to save myself," Mr Lynn said. "It was at a time when I was just finding a really happy place in the world with family, career and my personal life outside of work. This for me was a disaster and I thought, what else can I possibly do?" Greg Lynn said he kept the deaths a secret from his wife Melanie. He said she didn't ask about his camping trip and later on took little notice when he repainted his vehicle in an attempt to throw police off the scent. But Mr Lynn said he knew police were onto him when detectives visited his home and he was snapped by this camera leaving the alleged murder scene. Later that year, he went back to where he dumped the bodies and set fire to what was left. "My intention was to get rid of evidence. It was a horrific thing to have to deal with. I was sick when I was there several times. I steeled myself for it and I worked through the night." Mr Lynn was charged with 2 counts of murder after that police interview. He's pleaded not guilty, with his trial now into its 4th week. Christian Silva, ABC News, Melbourne.
The federal government has embarked on a new course as it tries to address ongoing challenges in attracting and retaining Defence Force personnel. From next month, Defence will begin looking to permanent residents from across the Tasman and later other close allies.
To address a 4,000-person shortfall in Defence, the government is looking to foreign nationals, permanent residents willing to serve in exchange for a fast track to citizenship in a recruitment policy march into uncharted territory.
It's a significant crossing of the Rubicon today.
But the government was forced to double back after confusion over exactly who will make up the 350 extra people forecast to join per year as a result.
It'll apply to other Five Eyes countries and permanent residents from any other countries.
The prospect of recruits from any other country forced a clean-up in question time.
In the future, we are having an eye to the Pacific.
It's a dog's breakfast.
The policy's now been clarified. From July, New Zealanders who are permanent residents in Australia and have lived here for more than a year will be able to apply to join the Defence Force. From January, that eligibility will be broadened to include permanent residents from Canada, the United States and United Kingdom, assuming all security checks are met. The opposition labelling the move half-baked.
If you value and respect, truly value and respect the effort of the Australian men and women who wear our uniform, you don't start to cheapen the entry price to get into the Australian Defence Force.
You are going to have to come up and offer them better pay and better conditions.
The mother of a Navy officer who took his own life says deeper cultural change is needed.
People from overseas that, from other countries that might want to enlist here just need to look at our track record.
There's a reason why new recruitment ideas are being embraced. Defence isn't only lagging on the people it needs now, it's also well behind its goal of a permanent 80,000 strong force by 2040. Nicole Hegarty, ABC News, Canberra.
Immigration Minister Andrew Giles has revealed he's considering cancelling the visa of a Melbourne gangland figure who the Administrative Appeals Tribunal has allowed to stay in the country. Yesterday, the AAT cited a direction from the Immigration Minister in 2023 demanding it consider a foreign national's strength and length of ties to the community, as it reinstated the visa of an associate of the Mockbell crime family, 51-year-old convicted criminal Kevin Farrugia. The direction is soon to be replaced after revelations it's led to a number of convicted criminals being permitted to stay in Australia.
I have, over the last week, cancelled 35 visas, and there are more under review. I am aware of the case that the Shadow Minister refers to, which was decided by the AAT yesterday, and it is under consideration in accordance with the national interest.
Victoria's bird flu outbreak has reached a third property. Farm Pride Foods at Lethbridge, north of Geelong, today confirmed avian influenza was detected there. It's the same strain which was detected at an egg farm at Meredith 10 days ago. The company says there are around 80,000 free-range hens at the site. The source of the infection is still under investigation. A separate strain of avian influenza was discovered at a farm at Terang last month. Agriculture Victoria says the property is in quarantine and poultry at the site is being disposed of. The US says Israel stands ready to push ahead with a plan that could lead to a total ceasefire in Gaza. That's despite far-right Israeli ministers threatening to topple the government if a truce is sealed. Pressure for a breakthrough is growing as details emerge of 4 hostages possibly killed by Israeli forces.
No sign of peace. Just one of more than 50 targets Israel says it struck in the past 24 hours. With Gazan cities and tent camps demolished, desperate Palestinians are pleading for a ceasefire.
Hamas, accept the deal. It's enough.
But far-right members of Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition have threatened to bring down the Israeli government should the deal outlined by US President Joe Biden go ahead.
This is a draft of a reckless deal, and now there is some sort of an attempt to whitewash it.
The Prime Minister is insisting the ceasefire conditions have not changed, but he has doubled down on crushing Hamas.
We have gone a long way to return the hostages, while keeping the war's objectives in mind, primarily the elimination of Hamas.
It appears the Israeli Prime Minister's private commitments to the US are now being forced into the public eye by the White House, which wants an end to this war. It's left Benjamin Netanyahu having to placate his right-wing ministers, now suggesting a temporary truce could start while negotiations continue for a permanent ceasefire, leaving open the possibility the war could also continue.
Despite the conflicting statements from Israel, Joe Biden has told Qatari mediators that Israel stands ready to move forward with the deal.
The only thing standing in the way of an immediate ceasefire today is Hamas.
The Israeli army has revealed 4 more of the hostages kidnapped by Hamas are now confirmed dead. The army believes the 4 were killed while Israel was operating in Khan Yunis, possibly by IDF fire.
If we're not going to negotiate and we'll make a hostage deal, there's no hope for this country.
Every day without a breakthrough, only adding to suffering and heartache. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
640 million votes are being tallied tonight in India in the largest democratic count in history, and it's expected to reveal a 3rd straight term in office for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Our correspondent Meghna Bali is in New Delhi for us tonight. Meghna, it's been a heated and vitriolic election campaign. How's this likely result being received on the streets of India?
Yeah, hey Isk. Look, I'm in the capital right now in front of Parliament House, and the atmosphere is actually quite subdued if you compare it to past elections, and that's because the result isn't quite going as expected. Look, exit polls predicted quite an easy win for Narendra Modi, his BJP party, and their allies. But what we're seeing is that they do have clear leads in 300 seats, but the opposition has put up a massive fight. They're leading in around 200 seats. Now, such was the confidence of the Prime Minister that he spent the last 2 days of voting in a 45-hour meditation and fast. And as he emerged from that island shrine where he was doing this, he took to social media immediately to declare a victory speech, even before any voting had started. But what we're seeing with early trends today is it's not quite panning out to be the landslide that they thought it was going to be. And that's because they've suffered massive losses in the country's most populous state, Uttar Pradesh. Now, this is politically significant because of the number of seats it has, and parties do end up spending a large part of their campaigns in this state, as did Mr. Modi, who flexed his economic achievements for the last 10 years, his commitment to Hindu revivalism. But that message has not seemed to struck a chord with voters, who are really hurting from cost of living pressures, high inflation and rising unemployment. Now, that is not really the saffron wave that we saw of 2019. Now, if Mr. Modi does win this term, he'll become the second Prime Minister since India's independence to win 3 straight terms.
Meghna Bali in New Delhi, thank you. Just days after Donald Trump's historic conviction, President Joe Biden's son is now on trial. Hunter Biden pleaded not guilty to allegations he lied when buying a gun in 2018. The jury has been sworn in to hear the case, which could prove a distraction as his father campaigns for re-election.
A First Lady and a mum. Jill Biden arrives at court to support her stepson. Hunter Biden faces 3 charges stemming from the purchase of a gun in 2018. It's alleged he lied when he told the licensed dealer he wasn't addicted to drugs. The defendant's troubled past is no secret.
Smoking crack and drinking vodka exclusively.
But now details of his crack cocaine use and turbulent personal life, including a love affair with his dead brother's widow, will be aired in court. Wilmington is the Bidens' hometown, and potential jurors were asked if they could be impartial before being sworn in. In a rare statement on the case, Joe Biden said, "As the president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases. But as a dad, I have boundless love for my son, confidence in him, and respect for his strength."
The personal drama is playing out in the political spotlight. Hunter Biden is not charged with election interference. He's not running for office, but the timing of this case so soon after Donald Trump's conviction couldn't be worse for his father's re-election campaign.
Last week, Joe Biden marked the anniversary of his son Beau's death, a reminder of the personal tragedies the family has endured. If convicted on all charges, the president's surviving son faces up to 25 years in jail. There's much more at stake here for Joe Biden than just a presidential election. Barbara Miller, ABC News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Australia has given the Matildas a massive send-off for the Paris Olympics, with tens of thousands turning out to cheer on the side for the last time on home soil. The 2-goal win over China saw the record-breaking crowd at Stadium Australia erupt. There were also tears, with an emotional farewell to keeper Lydia Williams. The next match for the Matildas will be in France. Sam Kerr won't be playing, but we now know the 18 players who will be competing for gold medal glory.
A record crowd of almost 77,000 people turned up to the Olympic Stadium to farewell Australia's favourite team and a treasured veteran.
Just listen to this ovation.
Lydia Williams was playing her 105th and likely last game for the Matildas. Tennis legend Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley presented the Noongar keeper with a buka, a cloak made from kangaroo skins.
Thank you, everyone.
Australia and China played out a 0-0 first half before captain Steph Catley delivered a pinpoint free kick.
It's a great ball, it's a great header. And it's Claire Wheeler.
1-0 became 2-0 when Hayley Rasso finished a beautifully weighted through ball from Courtney Vine.
Who accelerates and scores, and the Matildas are heading to Paris in style.
And this morning it became official for Tony Gustafsson's squad of 18.
It's been an emotional week, of course. But right now, today, I feel very excited.
The Olympics is a really, really difficult tournament. It's quick turnarounds, straight off the bat in the groups you're playing against, some of the top teams in the world.
Steph Catley will captain an experienced squad. She's one of 8 Matildas going to their 3rd Olympic Games. 6 will be going to their 2nd, while last night's goal scorer, Claire Wheeler, is one of 4 players who'll be making their Olympic debut. This is a team Australia will be hoping can break the Matildas' duck at major tournaments. After finishing 4th at the World Cup and the last Olympic Games, they now have a great opportunity to finish on the podium.
We know we're not the top-ranked teams. We're ranked 9 out of 12 teams in this tournament if you look at world ranking. We have a lot of injury issues, as you know, and as of late.
The obvious admission is Sam Kerr. And while Katrina Gorry has been selected, she hasn't played since March due to a syndesmosis injury. It's all smiles now, then hard work before the first game against Germany in Marseille. David Mark, ABC News, Sydney.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, yet another obstacle derails plans to build a train line to Melbourne Airport.
We just want this done. We've been waiting for 60 years.
A city of our size, it's very disappointing that it hasn't happened yet.
We're completely on board with this project, and the airport is holding this up at the very last hurdle.
Also, Defence Minister Richard Marles on the plan to allow permanent residents to serve in the Defence Force.
A new $272 million court in Melbourne's West is set to sit empty because the state government has not provided funding for staff when it opens. The Wyndham Law Courts are due to open in March. The state budget allocated no funds to staff the centre, which will have 13 courtrooms and 26 holding cells. It'll be the largest court centre outside the CBD and was meant to include specialist family violence courts.
It's a court that Labor can build, but they just can't afford to open. This would be like an episode of Yes Minister, except it's not funny. Victoria's already got the worst backlogs of any state in the country when it comes to courts.
We make budget decisions year round, and they will be reported on in the usual way.
Bruce Lehrmann is claiming he was denied procedural fairness in his failed defamation case as he prepares to appeal against the decision. Mr Lehrmann lodged the defamation case against Network 10 after his criminal trial for rape was abandoned with no findings against him. Federal Court Judge Michael Lee found that on the balance of probabilities, he did rape Ms Higgins, proving 10's truth defence. But Mr Lehrmann's notice of appeal says Justice Lee did not apply the correct standard of proof in arriving at that decision. No date has been set for the appeal. Some remote Northern Territory communities have been barred from legally accessing takeaway alcohol for up to half a century. But that could soon change, with the NT government announcing its roadmap for the rollout of alcohol management plans across the territory. It's a move some Indigenous leaders fear will only open the floodgates to further addiction.
It's been 15 months since alcohol-fuelled crime reached crisis levels in Central Australia. The NT government, under pressure from the Commonwealth, reinstated liquor bans in all communities and town camps, 6 months after intervention-era laws were allowed to lapse.
These are complex problems and they require a full solution.
And now, more than a year on, the government has revealed its roadmap for rolling out alcohol management plans across the territory, giving communities which have been dry for up to 50 years the chance to legally access takeaway alcohol.
We've got to get away from this paternalistic view of alcohol and saying to communities you just cannot have it.
The NT government has put out a tender for private consultants to help communities develop their management plans. More than 100 remote communities and homelands have registered interest, with about 30 moving to the development stage.
We need people to learn to live with alcohol.
Beswick is one of the NT's 8 remote communities already operating a social club. Leaders say it's helped residents learn to drink responsibly and stopped them from taking risky trips to major centres to buy alcohol.
It was mainly the deaths. People just started coming back in a casket.
But other Indigenous leaders fear communities aren't ready for the rivers of grog to return.
Putting remote alcohol places on remote communities is adding more fuel to the fire. It's an addiction and it's a feel-good because the person's been kicked in the guts all his life and the only way out of it is alcohol.
Mixed feelings on a hot topic in the Territories debates. Charmaine Allison, ABC News, Alice Springs.
A factory housing snakes, frogs and at least one crocodile has gone up in flames in Melbourne's east. It took more than an hour for firefighters to get the blaze under control, with large amounts of smoke billowing from the Jurassic Jungle Reptile Warehouse in Kilsyth South last night around 8:30. Hundreds of reptiles, including highly venomous snakes, had to be rescued after the fire was extinguished.
So there's the inland taipan, which is the deadliest snake in the world, kept in here, along with a number of brown snakes and other type of venomous Australian snakes. So it's pretty interesting seeing crocodiles brought out in sort of suburbia Melbourne. It's not something you see every day, that's for sure.
P&O Cruises will be shut down in Australia from next year. P&O's parent company will absorb it into the Carnival brand and 2 ships will be renamed. But Pacific Explorer cruises will be cancelled from next March and passengers will receive refunds. Carnival's CEO says the decision was made because of the South Pacific's small population and higher operating costs. The company, which has operated in Australia for 90 years, expects a number of job cuts in head office, but says it'll redeploy most staff. Staying with finance now, and the Australian dollar moved a little higher today ahead of tomorrow's March quarter GDP release. Here's Alan Kohler.
The consensus forecast for economic growth in the March quarter due out tomorrow is 1.2% for the year, 0.2% for the quarter. Not that economists who have to make these forecasts agree on a consensus, of course. Some are just averages all the ways in which they disagree. ANZ and NAB both think in the quarter growth will be 0 and 1% for the year, so they reckon it'll be an almost recession. In any case, GDP growth will be less than half population growth, extending Australia's long per-person recession into a second year. The Aussie dollar snuck up a few points to 66.7 US cents, but only because the US dollar fell. The share market fell 0.4% because resources stocks were sold off, after iron ore and oil prices fell by quite a lot last night. Global markets didn't do much. Small moves in New York last night and Asia today, except Mexico, where the main share index fell more than 6% after the landslide victory of the country's first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Apparently, investors and business people are worried that her party, Moderna, will spend more money and take more control of the economy. Now, in other Mexican news, the Aussie fast food chain Guzman y Gomez has decided to float on the ASX. The number of their restaurants has been growing at 15% a year, compound, and they're expanding into Singapore, Japan and the US. The float will be a spicy $2.2 billion. Finally, the ABS released data on spending on exploration today. Exploration for minerals fell 2%, but for oil and gas, it increased 10% in the quarter and 48% over 12 months. I'm just surprised anyone's still looking for fossil fuels at all these days. And that's finance.
Alex de Minaur has upset the world number 5 Daniil Medvedev to become the first Australian male since Leighton Hewitt in 2004 to reach the quarterfinals at the French Open.
It's the feel-good story of Roland Garros. An enthusiastic supporter of Alex de Minaur in his previous match, French fan Paul was back, riding every point like his life depended on it. Show his gratitude.
He's managed a miracle. Might have to get him on tour week in and week out. I could hear him after every single point, and it's a distinctive voice.
Honestly, it was amazing, and now I really hope you'll win. It was incredible.
On the clay, I needed hot, lively conditions, but you know, this week, this whole tournament has proven otherwise.
De Minaur endeared himself to the Parisians by conducting his entire post-match interview in French. The Demon is likely to be a crowd favourite when he faces 4th seed Alexander Zverev. The German is coming off 2 gruelling 5-set wins.
I've played a total of 8.5 hours over the last 3 days, so I need to recover.
Charm by his side, a maiden Grand Slam semi-final is in his sights. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
Aston Martin's 300-game celebrations have been put on ice with the Richmond veteran ruled out of Thursday night's match against Adelaide. Illness means the three-time premiership player will need to wait another week to become just the 7th Tiger to reach the milestone.
Sitting on 299 games, Dustin Martin was a notable absence from Tigers training.
He's actually ill today, so that's taken that out of our hands.
With 3 premierships, 3 Norm Smith medals, 4 All-Australians and 1 Brownlow under the belt, Dusty looks set to add 300 games to his resume in Adelaide against the Crows. But the 5-day break proved tricky for the injury-hit Tigers.
The silver lining to that is the fact that he'll get to play his 300th in front of our crowd against the Hawks next week.
In some good news on the injury front, trio Shea Bolton, Tim Taranto and Dion Prestia are available and others are nearing a return.
Tom and Jacob Hopper are getting closer. They're in almost full training, so just going to make a decision on whether they play before the bye or after that.
Max King will need to pass a fitness test on Thursday to make himself eligible for Saints selection this week. The 23-year-old hoping to be available ahead of their clash against the Suns.
I think he's still a little bit ginger, but no structural damage or anything like that. So I think, we'll just see how he pulls up as the days go on.
In Brisbane, Hugh McCluggage will remain a Lion, with the co-vice captain now locked in through 2031. The 26-year-old resisting big offers from rival clubs.
It's been a great ride and I still think that there's plenty of good times left.
The Harbour City's 2 sides have made similar moves in locking up talent. Will Hayward signing a 5-year extension with the ladder leading Swans, and Sam Taylor tying his long-term future to the Giants until the end of 2032.
It's almost as though if you're not offering a long-term contract for key players such as Sam, then you're probably not securing their signatures.
Fraser Fife, ABC News.
Now to the weather with Paul Higgins, but before you get to that, Paul, you've made a big announcement today.
I have indeed, Isk, yes, and I'm afraid to say that it hasn't been an easy decision for me, but after 38 years on and off here at Auntie, it's time to untangle myself from the isobars and say farewell. Not just yet, though. I will still be here until Thursday of next week, and I'll say more then. Well, it was a frosty morning in the Wimmera, where Horsham fell to 0 degrees, -1 in the Alps. There was plenty of mid and high-level cloud. Look at that, just coming down from the north, blanketing our skies today. So that kept temperatures down. 9 degrees at Ballarat, 10 in Bendigo. It was mildest way out east at Gabo Island, 16 degrees. Melbourne City did well, considering, with a high of 13.8 at 11:05 this morning and hardly any wind. And outside the front door now, it's calm and 10. And it's been almost calm today in Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, Hobart, Adelaide and Perth as well, because we've got these large high-pressure systems dominating. The cloud over us is coming from an upper-level pressure trough that's sitting over South Australia. Now, that's going to head east, and that will help a surface trough, and then a low to develop off the New South Wales coast. Now that low will push some showers over eastern Victoria from Thursday until Saturday, and we'll take a closer look at that in a moment. But tomorrow you can see that rain ramping up along the east coast, with Sydney and Canberra in for showers from late in the morning. Brisbane will be mostly sunny in Perth, Adelaide and Hobart partly cloudy. Back home, let's zoom in now on that coming rain for our east. These are the cumulative totals as it moves in. So at this stage, 20 to 50 millimetres all up for East Gippsland and 6 to 10 millimetres for the rest of Gippsland. Then from late on Saturday, we've got a cold front moving in that's going to bring a shower or two to our south and even a dusting of alpine snow. That'll be nice. Tomorrow, we will kick the day off with some fog patches across much of the state, some early morning frost in the west as well. Then mostly cloudy skies, a shower or two on and south of the ranges and a light to moderate southerly wind. And there is a frost warning for the Wimmera and southwest. On the bay, a west to southwest wind at 10 knots, becoming southerly in the afternoon. 7-hour low in Melbourne tonight, up to 15 tomorrow. That's just a little bit warmer than today, but it will be cloudy again. There could be some drizzle or light showers. A light wind will turn southerly after lunch. We should get to see some sunshine Thursday. It'll be partly cloudy and 17. Friday, partly cloudy, a few showers in our northwest, 17. 15 on a cloudy Saturday with a few showers. And Sunday, a few more showers and some sunny breaks too, Isk.
Paul, thank you very much. Truly thank you. And
thank you.
I know it's not goodbye yet. A few more days next week, Thursday. Thank you. And thank you. 7:30's next.